It's a scientific fact that your body will not absorb cholesterol if you take it from someone else's plate. Dave Barry. Hello, this is Pat Coakley, and this is episode 43 of PODSNACKS, my weekly edition of the daily blog, www.artofthediet.com. And today I interview Liz, who is a WeightWatcher Lifetime member trying to get back to her goal weight. Liz was one of 9 children living near Boston, and she described dinner tables in her house as requiring her to crouch over her plate and guard it with her elbows to ward off predators. This story made me think of Dave Barry's quote. And if I can't have Dave Barry as a neighbor, Liz would be my second choice. Today I interview her. She was the last of 9 children, and she described those dinner tables in a way that made me think lifetime patterns of eating come from very early on in life. She brings the humor always to her struggle with weight, as well as considerable insight and perseverance. Recently, I wrote a snippet of a conversation in the daily blog that Liz and I had in a WeightWatcher meeting, and I think it's worth repeating as an introduction to hearing more from Liz. Okay, here's the snippet from the blog. My friend Liz made me laugh out loud today at the WeightWatcher meeting. She said one phrase in exasperation: "Let's make a deal." And I made up my own meaning. It just hit me as the perfect phrase for a lifetime of weight maintenance. I think what she meant, based on her saying that all I do all day is negotiate with food, is why, oh why, can't we just make a deal? We'll eat from smaller plates, salad plates, for example, for the rest of our lives, cross our hearts and hope to die. If we could just lose and maintain our weight in peace without it having to be a daily bloody struggle. It is a negotiation every day. I reminded her that negotiations weren't ever my best suit. I make horrible deals with myself. No one would want to come on down to see these deals. And she said, "Oh, that's right, your evil twin." Exactly. My evil twin is in charge of negotiations, and she just flat out cheats. It is good to be known by a member of my tribe, however. I don't have to explain a thing. We may be in endless peace negotiations for the rest of time, but we can at least make one another laugh while the opposing sides duke it out. So here is Liz, and at various points during the interviews, some turkeys and a groundhog strolled across my lawn for entertainment as well. Enjoy. And if you're interested in sharing your story, contact me at my email, pbcsky@gmail.com. This is one of my favorite people, Liz. She's made me laugh for years, and I've also noted that she knows a lot of stuff. And so I'm going to ask her as if I didn't know you at all, and perhaps just begin with, how did you first go to Weight Watchers? When was the first time?
I believe I joined Weight Watchers in 2007. I think it was around September in that year. And one of the things that prompted me to go was I had a few times before this lost maybe up to 25 pounds on my own, doing, a diet and walking more. But I could never maintain it. It always seemed to come right back. And I had to go to an awards dinner at work for something, and they took your picture shaking hands with the big shots. And afterwards, they sent me the picture, and I said, "Holy mackerel, is that me?"
Oh, boy.
And I said, "I look like my sister, who is younger than me, but much bigger than me." And I always thought it's like the camera can. I used to avoid having my picture
Me
taken.
too. Yeah.
So I used to avoid photographs. When people brought out the cameras, I would go somewhere else or stand behind somebody or in between a few people to camouflage my size. Because I was heavy, and I knew it, but I just felt like, well, this is my lot in life,
Yeah.
So finally I joined Weight Watchers because I thought, well, I'll give it a whirl. What the heck? How can what can I do? If I lose weight, that'll be great. And if I don't, well, it won't be any worse off. But I was pleasantly surprised when I joined Weight Watchers and met the current leader that we have. I think everybody seems to like Roz and enjoy going to her meetings. So, and I was really impressed with, I guess I needed the structure of a formal program and the accountability of weighing in every week and, keeping a food diary just to get used to the fact that, you don't have to eat when you're not hungry. You don't have to eat just because you like to eat or what's on the table. It looks really good. It's more like you need to take care of yourself. So, I had a habit of really enjoying food, and I guess everybody does. But as you get older, your metabolism slows, and I wasn't as active. I had never been athletic in my life. When I was in high school, I went to a very small parochial school, and they didn't have an athletic program. I think we had a basketball team, and if you were good enough to be on the team, that was about it. They had very little physical activity for us. So,
were you heavy as a girl?
I was kind of borderline heavy. When I look back at pictures, I didn't think I was heavy, but I look at the pictures and I thought, I was starting to get a little on the heavier side for my size, but I've always been a sloucher too, so I've never stood up straight. So, but at any rate, it started, I guess, as a teen, and then I found a really great weight loss program. I started smoking. I was about 19. Oh, look, there's turkeys out there. And if we're hungry, we can go grab one.
It was a groundhog, too.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway...
So you discovered smoking as a diet aid.
I was smoking after I got through college, nursing school of all things, and knew all the dangers of smoking. I thought, well, I can smoke and just in social situations. And it's, of course, it's addictive, and I was smoking a pack a day. But I was as thin as I ever was in my life. I was down to 110 pounds.
Wow.
And I was svelte. Wow. I would go into
that
Jordan.
Almost seems too thin.
Yeah, I would go into Jordan Marsh and I would try on these clothes, and I was like, wow, I look pretty good, And of course, I was young too, so I was, your metabolism is different. And people used to look at me and say, how can you eat so much? You eat like a longshoreman, and you never gain weight. And I said, I don't know. And I said, and that's where the bad eating habits came in. Yes. I could eat without gaining weight.
Yeah, you had that period in your life.
Right, yeah. Right. Then I got married, and I was in my late 20s. I started having children, and the first 3 children, I lost all that weight right away afterwards, and I was back
on your own,
on my own, with just the normal activities and my normal eating and chasing the children around. And then when I got to be about late 30s, I had several children in succession.
Yeah.
And after I had, I think, the 5th one, I started to really pack on the weight. But I never really paid much attention to it. I was working and I was busy with my children, and I thought, I've got a lot of activity in here. But I really didn't. I had a lot of sitting and driving to Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and CCD and all these other activities, and picking up at school, going to practices and blah, blah, blah. But when I joined Weight Watchers, I really got back. I started concentrating on myself. My children were more adults then. So it's almost 9 years ago, 2007.
So what made you go? Since this was the first time.
That picture I saw of myself at the awards dinner. In fact, I still have that picture. I cut it out and I put it on my refrigerator for a while. And the other day, actually yesterday, I was cleaning my room and I found another set of pictures that I had, because I think I did a little thing one time at Weight Watchers to, show some progress. But I looked at the picture because I had it. It was taken out in Seattle when we went to the Olympic Mountains. And it's one of those scenic outlook places where you can take pictures. And my husband took a picture of me. And it came out good. It was a nice picture of me, except that I was still kind of heavy then. Yeah. And I said, look at this. And he goes, that's you? He couldn't believe it. He was with me at the same time. He said, I can't believe it. He said, I guess I did take this picture. Wow. He said, I can't believe that's you. He said, you look like your sister. I said, I know. I said, we do look alike, the two of us, the two youngest. My older sister says, yeah, you two were the babies. You got the best food. You got. She said, we were all growing up and my parents had mellowed and they were relaxed. And it was like, yeah, give them whatever they want. Just keep quiet. Yeah. So, anyway, so I looked at that picture and I thought, that was it. And I went to Weight Watchers and I thought, if it works, fine. If it doesn't, well, I won't be any worse off. But I was pleasantly surprised at how controlling my eating, taking charge of it and being conscious of it, not so much controlling it, but being conscious of what I was eating and when I was eating it and why I was eating it. Yeah. And then adding in the activity. I mean, walking was good. And that helped. And I was very impressed that I lost like 25 pounds fairly quickly. And I thought, hey, this is going to be, if the weight comes off like this is going to be a snap. Yeah. But then you reach that area, that plateau where it slows down and the weight's not coming off as fast. And I had to pick up my activity. And my kids were always challenging me. Oh, you can run. You can do some running. So I started going to the gym and running on the treadmill. Oh, okay. And I really felt really quite impressed with myself. I was like, wow, I didn't know I could do this without hurting myself.
Without falling off the treadmill.
Right. Falling off the treadmill and looking like a fool. And I used to think, oh yeah, I'm going to go in there and there's all these young gazelles in there with their nice spandex and jumping around and their ponytails going up and down and they look so cute. And here comes the old lady in the treadmill trudging along. But I said, that's okay. I was a young gazelle once too. And now it's my time to be a middle-aged woman.
So you enjoyed actually going.
I did enjoy going to the gym and running. Okay. I really impressed myself that I could do this. I was like, who knew, And then when I ever was in, the kids wanted me to run a 5K with them. They were going to do one. And so I said, all right, I'll do it. And I was really quite impressed when I ran that 5K.
And you ran it.
I didn't walk it, no. I ran the whole 9 yards, whatever it is, 3.2. And it was right here in Franklin. And they were all waiting. The girls were ahead of me, of course, and they were waiting for me at the finish line. And I was so tired at the end. But there was a couple who were running, and they had T-shirts on that said Mr. and Mrs. Slowski, like the turtles in that TV commercial. Yes. And I was like, well, at least I'm going ahead of the Slowskies, But it was fun. And I got there, and I got a trophy, and I was so impressed because I was first in my age group. And then I found out I was the only one in my age group.
But still.
But it was worth it to me. And
your kids must have been thrilled.
Because I went up to look at the papers, the standings they were posting, and I saw, gee, my name, and it's a 1/1. And there was another older woman there, and I said, what does that mean? And she said, oh, that means that person is first in their age group. And she said, but their age group is only one person. And she said, and I'm in the next one. She was first in the next higher one. I was like, ooh. I said, maybe. So we both said, we'll see you next year, try it again. And so we did. We both got trophies that day, and it was fun. And
did that impact the weight loss, the upping the exercise?
Yeah, upping the exercise did impact the weight loss. I did. At the end, trying to get to that final goal, that lifetime goal where you become a lifetime member, was really very difficult because it seemed like I was just 2 or 3 pounds away and just could not crack that ceiling that I had hit. And I finally just had to, it was probably not really on the program, but to get there, I finally had to get those last couple of pounds off. I had to really go down in my intake, not stick to my
severely
points. And I did get to it, and I maintained it for the maintenance period, and I did maintain it for about a year. And then
so how long did it take you from the time you started 2007 to get to the Lifetime?
I think a little more than a year. Wow. A little more than a year it took.
Wow.
Because I started in September, and I think it was probably late October that I finally hit goal.
And how many pounds did you lose?
I lost 76.5 pounds.
In 1 year?
In 1 year, yeah.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that that's about the right time frame.
Wow.
But, I mean, it was work. It was work.
Must have been.
But I was very proud of myself that I had done that, because I really didn't think I could lose that much weight. And I was working at the hospital then in Norwood, and people were so impressed with me. What had happened, too, is I had gotten sick in there at one point. I did have a hospitalization and had to have some diagnostics done that made me realize, you're not helping yourself with your weight, this weight being the way it is. So that was another reason, too, to lose the weight. But that happened after I started with Weight Watchers.
Okay.
And
how did your family react, like your sister? And
everybody was very impressed. Everybody. Every time I got together with my family, everybody was very positive. I don't remember getting any negative feedback from anybody or any feelings of like jealousy or who do you think you are? You think you're so smart or anything like that. I got all positive reactions. I was very lucky. I know a lot of people get negative feedback. Some people who are
stuff.
And I think it's almost like jealousy of your accomplishment. But most of the time, I think I got positive feedback, and people were always impressed with me. I remember one of the girls at work, because I hadn't bought new clothes for a while, and I was still wearing my baggy uniforms at work, and she came over and she grabbed my baggy pants. She goes, "When are you going to buy some clothes?" She goes, "These look ridiculous." She said, "You've lost so much weight, you need to buy new clothes." I said, "Yeah, I know, but I'm afraid to buy them." I said, "Because then if I gain the weight back, I'll have all these clothes that I can't wear."
Always looking on that bright side.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Because it's true. It's really true. It's so easy. Even when you're in the program and you're losing weight, if you don't stick to your program, that weight comes right back as quickly as it can. It just does. I mean, it doesn't come off fast, but it comes right back on fast. Because since I was in Weight Watchers last year, in February, I had gradually started to gain the weight back again. And first what happened, this is probably almost 3 years now, my son had an accident at work, and he was seriously injured and had some complications afterwards. So it kind of threw my schedule all off. Yeah. And then you start eating out of vending machines, and even in hospitals, I'm amazed at the amount of crappy food they have for you to eat when you're there late at night or early in the morning or anything. It's like, don't you have any fruit? I mean, this is a hospital. You're supposed to have healthy food here, and you're giving people pizza, So, so gradually I had gained back, I think I'd gained about 10 pounds then. So I thought, well, 10 pounds, I can take care of this. This is, but it never came off. I just, stayed right there at that weight. And gradually, another 10 pounds came back on. And so last year in February, I knew my daughter was getting married in September, and I wanted to wear a nice dress. And I said, I'm going to get back to goal. So I joined a more serious gym, one where you have to make appointments and you're there and they call you, and if you don't show up, and it was a lot more money than my regular gym too. So I said, well, if I'm going to invest the money, I'm going to make sure this works. And last year I re-lost 22 pounds. And in September when we had the wedding, I had my nice dress on. I felt great. I looked good. I felt like I looked good. And at the wedding, I started eating, and I don't think I ever stopped eating for like 6 months. I just went crazy after that.
It triggered it.
It did. Being in the wedding, it was like, I did it. I'm all set. Now I can relax and eat. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, next week when all the celebrations are over and the kids are back from their honeymoon and everything settles down, I'll get back on track.
Yeah.
And I never stopped going to my Weight Watchers meetings. I always went to the meetings, and I never stopped going to my expensive gym, even though I was gradually gaining the weight back every week. I would be up another pound, and they'd look at me and say, "What are you doing? Are you eating right?" And I'm like, "Well, I am not eating right. I'm eating everything I can, I usually eat, but not the right things. And I'm indulging myself more."
Yeah.
Because I felt like I had deprived myself so long and worked so hard that I deserved to have a break. Yeah. So, of course, I had my break, and the other 20 pounds is back on. So here we are back again at square one.
Yeah.
But it's only the 20 pounds. I'm still 50 pounds down.
That's
I have to keep reminding myself, you're still 50 pounds down from what you were before, which is a good thing. And now I'm kind of back in the mindset. I'm starting to lose a little every week, which is better for me. But I have to keep up that activity. If I don't keep up that activity, that 10,000 steps every day or more, I just maintain. I don't lose. I have to do extra activity. And I really have to be careful with my eating, what I eat. And I really can't eat mindlessly. I can't indulge myself with just say, "Oh, yeah, I think I'll sit down and have a cup of tea and about 5 or 6 cookies."
Yeah.
Because you can't. I mean, 5 or 6 cookies is a lot of points.
Yeah.
The tea isn't much, but but I mean, it's like that book. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. So it just kind of snowballs. But
I haven't read that book, but I love it already.
But I mean, that's the kind of habits you can get into. It's the old habits. Like when I smoked, I would always have a cup of coffee and a cigarette. And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not hungry," because it does suppress your appetite.
Yes.
And even the actual art of smoking burns calories.
Yeah.
The nicotine is a stimulant, so it makes you burn calories. So without that, I guess I must have an oral fixation or something. Without smoking, I have to eat.
Yeah.
And I never used to eat like that. I could have a cup of coffee and not have donuts and not have cinnamon rolls or anything like that. But now it's like, you have a cup of coffee. It's like, let's just have a piece of toast or something, couple of crackers,
Yeah.
But even those things, you have to make sure you have the toast with just, the light bread. And you have to be very careful, mindful of, you just don't smear a lot of butter on there. Maybe you do the spray butter, or maybe you just use a little bit of the low sugar, all fruit, jam to put on there.
Yeah.
Or even just mash up a banana and put it on there, know, rather than, like you go someplace else and you just slather on the butter and it's real butter. And
it tastes real good.
Yeah, it does. You really notice it after a while, the difference in these tastes. And you're like, wow, yeah, that is significant.
Well, the smoking you got into at an early age.
I was about 19 when I started smoking. So
how many years did you
I smoked until I was in my 40s.
Wow.
And I at times could get up to 2 packs a day, depending on the kind of day I was having or how long I was awake.
So what made you quit?
Well, I got sick, and I couldn't breathe.
Okay, so you
and I couldn't get up the stairs. I was really compromised, and I thought, this is not good. I mean, if whatever medical problem is causing me to be sick is being exacerbated by continually smoking.
Yeah.
So I quit several times over all those years. I went to a hypnotist to quit, and that really didn't work very well. I went to classes to quit. And they were short-term things. I would quit for a while, but then I always seemed to go back to it, And you would do it gradually, just the way you do everything else. You would say, I'll just have a couple and throw the pack away.
Yeah.
And then the packs get so expensive that you don't like. It's like, well, I'll just have a couple and I'll put them in the glove compartment, and then I won't bother. They won't be in the house. But then you'd go out and get them out of the glove compartment or out of the trunk or whatever.
That's the exact strategy I would use with crackers or with cookies.
Yeah.
Try to monitor my intake,
Yeah.
but knowing full well
Did it?
where they are
Yeah.
at every moment.
And thinking about them. When can I go get them? When would be a good time
Yes.
to have them
So
and
it's
eat
a very
them?
similar thing. isn't
So, and my cigarettes were my buddies, and it's true that they're with you no matter what. When you don't feel good or you're mad about something or you're sad about something, okay, I can have a cigarette. And I always smoked mentholated cigarettes,
Yeah.
which was sweet. So I
Okay.
think that's why I kind of go towards sweets with my eating.
Okay. But when you were able to kick that habit, did you then compensate with food?
I did.
Like so many of us
I
do when
did.
we give up smoking?
Yeah, I did. I know I did. I ate more sweets after that. I really, and snacks, that mindless snacking, I used to reward myself. I would do my housework after the kids got off to school, got them on the bus. I'd go back in the house and I'd say, it was like Dagwood Bumstead getting my husband out the door and getting the kids all ready and everything. And then finally, all the commotion was over and I could sit down and relax. And I would have a cigarette and a cup of coffee and I would have my breakfast. And my breakfast sometimes would just be like something sweet, because I used to like to bake too. So I would make coffee cake or something, So I really wouldn't eat a breakfast.
Yeah.
But anyway, then I would go and start doing my housework, and I would get all my little chores done, and I'd sit down, and I'd say, okay, now I can relax and have a cigarette. And so when I stopped smoking, I would sit down and eat.
Have a snack.
I would have a little snack after every little chore that I did. Then I would go out and do whatever errands I had to do, or if I had the baby and had to do things like, there was always something to do. Taking care of the baby, getting a child settled down, taking them to nursery school, or taking them to this or that, or visiting my mother. But I did smoke a lot, and when I quit smoking, I ate a lot to compensate for it. And it gradually, that was where the weight really started coming on. Was the moving into middle age, and then not smoking.
I know we've talked about this at the meeting sometimes after the meeting's over about similarities to addiction that the food has. I know behaviorally, like knowing where those snacks are, like you knew where those cigarettes were and how many were there and when you could have it. The whole obsession part of the day.
Yeah.
Did you experience that when you were losing the weight? Did you experience a freedom from that tyranny of focusing on food, or was it just a different kind of focus?
I really think it was a different kind of focus because I was much more concentrating on healthier foods and not eating mindlessly and accomplishing that goal, getting to that goal. I was determined that I would do this. And I really discovered, too, healthy eating was really very tasty. I had not been a big fruit eater. I mean, I never would bother with, buying, to me, having those big fruit salads, that was like party food, It was like, this is a lot of work cutting up all these melons and things like that. So, I mean, it was the kind of thing you would do for a party, But then I discovered that, hey, this is pretty good to have on a daily basis, If you want to have a breakfast of yogurt and fruit, it's a pretty nice breakfast and not so many calories. And so that's what I would do. And I can remember my husband and I went away for a weekend with friends of ours. And part of the fun of the weekend was usually cooking a big breakfast. And I was so close to my goal at that point that I wouldn't eat this big breakfast. They were all having bacon and eggs and French toast and all this great food. And they said, what are you going to have, Liz? And I said, I'm just going to have yogurt and fruit. And they all looked at me like I had two heads. Yogurt and fruit? What are you, crazy? I said, no. I said, but I got to go out for a run first. And I ran out the door with my running clothes on. And we were way up in New Hampshire. And I was like, I hope a bear doesn't come out and start chasing me or something, or coyotes. I went for a long run, and then I came back, and I had my shower and yogurt fruit, and they all looked at me like, I can't believe you.
Did you feel deprived?
No, I didn't. I really didn't want that food. I wanted to get to my goal, so I said, I'm having my yogurt and fruit. And, I really enjoyed having that yogurt and fruit. It had become like almost a novelty to me because I'd never eaten so much healthy food. I used to eat a lot of fatty foods, and I used to eat a lot of sweets. So eating a lot more fruits and vegetables, salads and fruit, and limiting the amount of candy and cookies in the house, you know. I mean, and my kids, I don't know, I never used to buy a lot of candy, but cookies, everybody liked cookies in the house.
You baked
and I was a baker.
So.
I like to make cakes and things like that. And I took cake decorating, so I knew how to do all the fancy stuff with the cake. And the kids loved it, and it was always fun. And
well, do you think that right now it's spring, almost summer, and the farmer's market and all the fresh stuff. Is this a good time for you to refocus because of that bounty?
Well, it is good because I like to buy. I like, even in the supermarket, I like to look at the all the fruits and vegetables, and I like to try different things and try different recipes with my regular food, and even like. Now, I never thought that I would cook chicken chow mein, but it's really a very simple meal. And, you know, putting the bean sprouts and that, it adds a lot of vegetables to it. And there's not a lot that you have to add to make it, you know, very tasty. And there's not a lot of calories to it. So it works out pretty well.
Now, do you track, now that you're sort of back with the losing every week, what techniques do you use that you know are waiting for you just to use them, and they'll pull you back?
I keep a food journal every day, and I do best when I do keep that up.
Okay.
There are days that I, stop doing it for a couple of days, and I notice my eating will kind of get out of control if I'm not tracking.
So that awareness really reins you in.
Yeah, being aware of what I'm eating and writing it down.
And are you honest with it? You don't leave
I try
things
to
out?
be honest with it as much as possible. In fact, that was a problem too, that I was kind of like, oh, it's only this many points,
Oh my
but
God.
now I just say, okay, if you're going to write it down, at least write down the right numbers, So I do. I have the little book to look up things, and I have my little points calculator when I look at my food. When I take something out, like yesterday, I sometimes buy things on sale, and then I forget I have them, and then it's like my husband will say, well, we don't have any crackers. And I say, oh, yes, we do. We have crackers. Wait a minute, I have to go find them. And I have a stash in the closet of all the food that I bought that was on sale. And he looks in the closet, and he says, who are the other people that keep food in the closet? I said, well, I don't have enough cabinets to keep all this, So anyway, I was looking at the crackers, and 5 crackers, I forget, is it 3? It came out to 3 points. I was really kind of impressed. I was like, gee, I thought these used to be 4 points for 5 crackers, but they were only 3. So it was like, okay.
Did you switch over to the new program in December?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you find that hard? Or?
I found it challenging when that changed, because it changed the number of points you could eat, but it also changed the points value of a lot of food. So a lot of the foods went up.
Yep.
And I was like, this is kind of not fair.
Yeah.
I almost felt like, they're pulling the rug out from under us every year or so. They kind of change things up. But you have to do that. I understand, to keep the program new, but and challenging. But I think I'm finally used to it.
Okay.
Now that it's how many months, but I'm finally used to that change, and I'm just doing what I have to do. In fact, in this food journal I have right now.
And is it a special journal that
it's
you bought?
It's like a vinyl covered one that they had.
Oh, that they sold, right? Okay, the 3-month journal. Yeah. Okay.
And it didn't have. One of them had all the little blocks at the bottom to check off, like how many dairies and how many servings of fruits and vegetables and all this, and did you get your oil and all that. But this one doesn't have that. It just has the lines and the column for the points.
Okay.
And you have, and then at the bottom it says activity. But so I write in there, fruits and vegetables, and I put little hash marks and cross them off to make sure I get my 5 servings and my 2 teaspoons of oil. That's what I usually forget, is the oil, if I don't write that down.
Let me ask you this: after your daughter's wedding, when you could tell that gloves were off. It was all of a sudden. Were you tracking during that period, or do you not track when you're
I was
really...
kind of, what do they call it, a half tracker? You know, you kind of track and you sort of track and you start tracking at the beginning of the day and then you kind of...
So you really know it's a red flag when you are not completing that daily journal.
Right.
It's a red flag regardless of what is going on.
Because when I was losing the weight and I was losing every week, I was tracking everything. I was meticulous about my tracking. Yeah. But then once I get to that goal, you almost feel you get a kind of a false confidence. Yes. I got this now, you know? Yeah. And the next thing you know, you got another 5 pounds back. Yeah. And so you can't let that overconfidence, you know, because it's true, like you say, that weight is waiting. It's like right outside the door, you know. And if you didn't have a bowl of cherries here, if you had a plate of cookies, I'd have it, you know.
Absolutely, me too.
But so I mean, you have to be careful what you bring into your house, you know. Don't bring trouble into the house, you know. And you know, you can't eat it if you don't have it. It works both ways. You can't eat healthy if you don't have the healthy foods in the house, and you can't, and you won't eat the bad things if you don't go and buy them.
Liz and I went on to talk about many subjects, but for our purposes today, I think I'll end here, but also by thanking her very much for participating, because she covered a lot of ground that was very similar, I think, to many of us. She mentioned that a photograph of herself was the eye-opener. She really didn't realize what size she was or how she appeared. She said even her husband didn't recognize her in the photo, so they had both gotten used to how she looked without really realizing it. She also said she had a health scare, which helped get her attention. I think that happens to many of us. She also described smoking in a way that I think many of us would describe our foods that we love. She described smoking as her buddy. That when she was happy, that when she was sad, when she was bored, she always had her buddy. And that she realized that she switched allegiances to food when she was able to beat that nicotine problem. She also can see clearly that when she structures her day, she is more in control. She uses the 3-month journal. I use the scale. We all use different tools, but I think the underlying revelation is that structure is important, however way we are going to do it. And also, I think that she just said that she needed to concentrate more on herself. And that when she started doing that, she realized she had skills that she'd been using in other aspects of her busy life, working and mothering, that she could apply. Smoking had been her diet plan, and when that went, she had to create another plan. And my absolute favorite story of Liz is in her 5K run, which just amazed her that she was in a 5K run, since she'd never been an athlete and had never really thought about doing it. But when she decided to go all out and do the healthy eating and also start moving, she started doing runs. And when she entered a 5K, she was happy as a clam that she completed it, and also that she beat the Slowskies. And the Slowskies were a couple doing the same run who had on T-shirts with big letters, the Slowskies. So I thank Liz for her wisdom and her stories and her humor. I count on it every week, and I hope you all have enjoyed her as well. Also, if you'd like to share your story, my email is pbc@gmail.com, and I'd love it if you'd reach out and we can discuss whether you'd be comfortable sharing it. Also, the show notes page this week is www.artofthediet.com/43, the number 43. And as always, if you have found any part of this podcast helpful, I'd love it if you'd share it with others on your social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, email, WeightWatcher Connect, anything where you think people who might need a little humor, a little hope, and some practical advice on how to be successful with weight maintenance. Thanks. I'll see you next week.